Hi, my name is Jennifer and welcome to my booktube. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. I read 7. I read 7 books this month, which for me, personally, is amazing. I don't think I've read that many books in 1 month since like middle school. I need to step up my game. 4 were by female authors. 3 were by male authors. I had a mix of contemporary, fantasy, 1 classic. Wow, go me. I read a classic. Yes. I'm going to be doing this in order from my least favorite to my most favorites of the month. So, my least favorite book this month was The Ruining by Anna Collomore. I gave this book, I think I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. Really, it's like a 1.5. I said in my April TBR that I was worried about this book for how it would portray mental illness. That wasn't even a factor in why I hated it. It was a very slow build-up. Literally about this much of the book is build-up. This book is about a girl named Annie Phillips who goes and becomes a nanny for this couple in San Francisco, leaving her life behind because her life was awful. She hated it. She hated being where she was with her mom and her mom's new husband, and things happened when she was younger that she's still getting over. Not to spoil anything. This book was so bad. Like I said before, this much of the book was build up. That's like 95% of this book. And it just, I felt like it didn't go anywhere. The same things were happening over and over. And just, she says herself she says she can't trust her own instincts, and she goes and she trusts her instincts. Like 2 seconds after that. She's being manipulated throughout this entire book, and she doesn't realize it, and people point it out to her, and she refuses to listen to them, and I don't know why. She makes so many horrible choices. And then the ending. Like, everything happens. The giant buildup to this one thing happens and then gets resolved in like 5 pages. But there's only 1 scene previously that even hints at anything along those lines happening. Actually, it doesn't even hint it. It just introduces the idea of the thing. I don't want to give any spoilers. Maybe I'll do a review on this book. A spoiler review. Actually, no. Okay. I'm going to do this now. If you don't want to be spoiled for this book, skip ahead. I'll put it down in the description what to skip to if you don't want to be spoiled for this book. Okay. Last chance. I'm going into it right now. Okay, so Annie gets manipulated by the mom, by the mom of the little girl that she's nannying. And it's bad. It's very apparent. Oh my gosh. It pissed me off the entire time. She made her think she was crazy because the mom has issues with power. She is so power hungry. It's ridiculous. And then Owen, the neighbor, tries telling her that, and Annie's like, no, that can't happen. That's not happening because Libby, the mom, loves me. She loves me. She's like a sister to me. And I'm just the entire time, and I'm like, she is manipulating you. And people are telling you. I've been ranting about this book for 5 minutes. But then at the end, when Libby puts her into a mental institute, and Annie still thinks that Libby is a good person, even though Walker, the husband, and Owen have come to visit her saying that Libby is the one who is wrong. Annie, you did not do anything. Libby is in the wrong here, and she still defends her. Like, I get this is a classic case of abuse and manipulation, but the way it was executed was just, it wasn't good. And then there's supposed to be some plot twist at the end that Libby sabotaged the car of Walker's first wife, and she died, and she saved the little girl, and they're having an affair, and it was just, I sound all over the place. And that is exactly how this book is. It is all over the place. And I was very disappointed. Very. So the next book is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And I think I gave this 3 stars. Yeah, that sounds about right. Just because it was okay. I feel like if I had read it in high school and had had discussions on it, I simultaneously would have loved and hated this book. I would have loved it because I would have been able to express my feelings at the time about it. But I also would have hated it because I hated like 99% of the books that we had to read for school that were even slightly boring. And at times this can get a little dull. But overall, I really liked the idea of this book. I love the dystopian vibe. I love the idea that it's centered around books. It was really interesting. It was fairly interesting, I should say. So it wasn't really interesting, it was fairly interesting. So yeah, 3 stars feels about accurate for this book. And then the next book I read, I would give it like a 3.5, and it was Emily the Strange, The Lost Days by Rob Redger. It was good. It was a little juvenile for me, but I read it because it was on Rory Gilmore's reading challenge. As weird as that sounds, it was on it. But it's about this girl. She wakes up in this really strange town with amnesia. She has no idea who she is. She has no idea where she is. She doesn't know what she's doing there. It's kind of weird because you as the reader also don't know what's going on. You're figuring things out with her, and it's told through her diary. Or, I guess, her journal that she finds on her lap when she wakes up in this city. It's very strange. I mean, it's called Emily the Strange. It's very out there, and I appreciate that. It's very creative, but I feel like I should have read this at a younger age to appreciate it more, if that makes sense. And then I read Masse by Lissy Harrison, which is the first book in the summer collection of the Click series, which is after their 7th grade year. And the summer collection follows all 5 girls. They'll each get their own book. It's really short. It's like 120 pages. And they're tiny little novellas, basically. This one is about Masse Block, who is the alpha, as she calls herself, of her friend group. And she gets kicked out of her writing. It's a summer writing camp. She gets kicked out, and her parents are really upset, so they make her find a job. And I feel like if I say anything more, it's just this entire book. So it's basically about that. This entire series is a guilty pleasure to me because it's full of nothing but middle school girl drama. And I eat it up. It's cringeworthy. It's really, you roll your eyes at half the things they say, but I just cannot get enough of this series. I don't know if I said this, but this was also about a 3.5 star book for me. The next book I read was Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. And like I said in my April TBR, this was one of my girlfriend's favorite books, or as she told me, she tells people it's her favorite book. But I really enjoyed it. The first half of the book was a little slow. I didn't really understand what was going on in the letters. I think I was reading them out of order a little bit, or like they're placed out of order in the book. And at one point I didn't know who one of the characters was. I was like, wait, what? I thought you didn't speak. Are you talking? Are you not talking? Not really a spoiler. But yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because I did enjoy it. I did love the last half of the book. It made me cry. I don't normally like books that make me cry, but I did like this one. The next book I read was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Masse. It's the second book in the Throne of Glass series, and I really liked it. I also gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The first half of the book. What is wrong with first half of the book? Okay. But the first half of this book, it was okay. It was just, I felt like it was kind of going through the motions, but then a big thing happens in the middle of this book, and the way that Selena acts afterward is how I pictured her to be as an assassin. Like, she goes full on assassin mode. She's badass. I fangirled so hard about her intensity and her emotions and how she did things as an assassin. Like, I felt she was finally an assassin, because in the first book, like, they just kind of said she was an assassin, but she didn't feel like one. And in the second half of this book, she actually felt like an assassin, and I enjoyed it so much. And I know that Crown of Midnight is most people's favorite book in this series, so I'm a little hesitant to go into the rest of the series. I am going to read it at some point, but I'm a little hesitant to continue reading on. And then the last book I read this month was Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli, and I love this book. I loved everything about this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I was so in love with this book. I think I finished it in 2 days. Oh my gosh, I can't get over how much I love this book. I love Becky Albertalli's writing. I love her characterization. I love the mystery of finding out who Blue was. I had a couple theories. One of them was right. I was very pleased about that. And there were a couple things that were kind of like eh, but they didn't knock off any star or half a star or anything. I still thought it was a solid 5-star read, and I would highly recommend it. I understand now why it gets so much hype here on BookTube, and the hype didn't squash anything for me. It is a properly hyped book. With saying that, I am really excited to pick up The Upside of Unrequited because it's getting just as much hype, and I've heard that it's just as good, and I'm so excited. Anyway, that is my April wrap-up. Tell me what you thought of any of these books, if you've read them before. What books did you read in April? I almost said May. And I will see you next time. Bye.